You slow your pace as you reach the end of your usual morning walk. The cool air feels different against your face now. Your breathing is deeper. Your heart is still beating a little faster than normal. Warmth spreads through your arms and legs, and your shoulders, which seemed to carry the weight of the world an hour ago, have quietly begun to loosen. Nothing dramatic has happened, yet something unmistakable has changed. The unpaid bills are still waiting on the kitchen table. Your next medical appointment is still circled on the calendar. A family member still needs your help. If sleep was restless last night, that memory has not disappeared either. The circumstances of your life remain exactly where you left them, and yet somehow, they no longer feel quite as heavy as they did before you stepped outside. Without realizing it, you stand a little taller. Your thoughts seem less crowded. Even the constant chatter in your mind has softened into something more manageable. It feels almost as if your body knows a secret your mind has not caught up with yet. Here is the remarkable part. Long before you noticed calmer breathing or clearer thinking, millions of tiny biological events had already begun unfolding beneath your skin. Cells were communicating, hormones were shifting, blood was being redirected. Your brain was changing the way it responded to signals that only minutes earlier had felt overwhelming. Almost nobody talks about this hidden process. We are often told that exercise helps us blow off stress, but that simple phrase barely scratches the surface of what is actually happening. Because if every one of those worries is still waiting for you at home, what exactly changed inside your body during those 20 minutes? That question has fascinated scientists for decades, and the answer is far more interesting than most of us have been led to believe. If a brisk walk cannot pay your bills, solve a family disagreement, or erase a difficult diagnosis, why does your mind often return home feeling steadier than when you left? Something clearly changed. The question is what? The explanation most people hear begins and ends with endorphins, the natural chemicals often described as the body's feel-good messengers. Others say you simply blow off steam, as though stress were pressure escaping from a kettle. Another popular idea is that exercise merely distracts you from your worries until they fade into the background. Each explanation contains a small piece of the truth. None tells the whole story. If distraction were the complete answer, you would expect the benefits to disappear the moment your attention returned to your problems. Yet regular physical activity does much more than improve your mood for an hour. It has been associated with lower anxiety, better sleep quality, healthier blood vessels, reduced chronic inflammation, and even measurable changes in the structure and function of certain regions of the brain over time. And this is where the mystery deepens. The remarkable tools responsible for those changes are not hidden inside an expensive supplement, a fashionable wellness gadget, or an exclusive program. They are already built into your body, waiting to be used, much like familiar ingredients sitting quietly in a kitchen cabinet until the right recipe brings them together. The real explanation lies beneath the surface, inside systems that work every day without asking for your attention. Before I explain why your body responds this way, I need to be honest about how this topic has been oversimplified. That oversimplification is everywhere. Spend just a few minutes online and you will find confident promises that one particular workout melts stress away, that you can hack your cortisol in a single afternoon, or that a simple routine will instantly release years of trapped trauma. Those messages are appealing because they offer certainty. Unfortunately, they usually skip the most interesting part of the story. I find that kind of advice frustrating, not because movement is unhelpful, but because your body deserves a better explanation than a catchy slogan. When we reduce a complex biological process to a marketing phrase, we lose the opportunity to understand something extraordinary that is happening inside us every day. You are left with instructions, but not understanding. And understanding is what allows you to make thoughtful decisions instead of chasing the next trend. The version most people hear is that exercise somehow flushes stress out of the body, as though stress were a toxin waiting to be drained away. That image is memorable, but it is not how human physiology works. Stress is not poured out through sweat or breathed away in a single workout. What the science actually shows is far more fascinating. Exercise changes how multiple systems communicate with one another. Your brain, nervous system, heart, muscles, immune system, and hormones begin coordinating differently, creating conditions that help your body recover from stress instead of remaining trapped inside it. That distinction matters because it changes the question completely. Rather than searching for the perfect exercise, you begin appreciating the remarkable design of the body you already have. The goal of this video is not to convince you that one routine solves everything, or that every person should exercise in exactly the same way. It is to follow the biological pathway step by step until the answer becomes clear through evidence rather than enthusiasm. The science does not need exaggeration to be remarkable. Once you see the mechanisms working together, the ordinary morning walk you finished earlier becomes something entirely different. So instead of asking what exercises, that deeper understanding is exactly what this channel is built around. There are plenty of places to find quick tips, dramatic headlines, and promises that sound too good to question. Here, the goal is different. We slow down, look beneath the surface, and explore how the aging body actually works, because understanding the science often makes everyday health decisions feel much less confusing. If you find this kind of careful, evidence-based explanation helpful, and you enjoy learning the reasons behind the recommendations instead of simply being told what to do, consider staying with us. There is always more to discover, and every conversation is guided by the same respect for your intelligence and your health. With that foundation in place, we can leave the slogans behind and examine what your body has been doing all along. Now let's follow stress through your body, step by step that aches you feel. Let's look at what it actually makes your body do. Now let's follow stress through your body, step by step. Once you see how each part connects to the next, the sense of relief you feel after a walk stops seeming mysterious and starts making perfect biological sense. It begins inside a small, almond-shaped structure deep within your brain called the amygdala. Think of it as an early warning system. When it senses a potential threat, whether that threat is a frightening noise or mounting financial worries, it sends a rapid signal to another brain region called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus acts like a command center, coordinating many of the body's automatic responses. Within moments, the hypothalamus activates your sympathetic nervous system, often called the fight or flight system. Signals travel to your adrenal glands, which sit above your kidneys, prompting them to release adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline prepares you for immediate action by increasing heart rate and raising blood pressure. Cortisol works over a slightly longer period, helping make stored glucose, your body's most accessible fuel, available for use. Blood flow is redirected away from processes that can wait, such as digestion, and toward your muscles, heart, and brain. This response is remarkably efficient if you truly need to escape danger. The problem is that modern stress rarely asks your muscles to do any work. Your body prepares for action while you remain seated at a desk, lying awake in bed, or worrying in a waiting room. The chemistry is ready. The movement never arrives. That is where exercise changes everything. A brisk walk, a cycling session, or moderate resistance training creates a controlled physical demand that finally gives those stress responses a meaningful purpose. Instead of supporting imagined emergencies, the increased blood flow, elevated glucose availability, and faster heartbeat are directed toward contracting muscles that genuinely need extra energy. And something even more fascinating begins. Skeletal muscles, which make up roughly 40% of your body weight, are not simply engines that move your limbs. They function as powerful communication organs. As they contract, they release signaling proteins called myokines. These chemical messengers travel throughout your body, communicating with your immune system, liver, fat tissue, blood vessels, and even your brain. Researchers continue discovering new roles for these signals, but one consistent finding is that they help coordinate healthier responses to physical stress while reducing many effects of chronic stress. Recovery is equally important. As your exercise session ends, your parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest system, gradually becomes more active. Your heart rate begins returning toward baseline. Heart rate recovery itself is considered an important marker of cardiovascular health. Over weeks and months, regular exercise also improves VO2, a measure of how efficiently your body uses oxygen during activity, making everyday tasks feel easier. Meanwhile, your brain is adapting. Moderate physical activity has been shown to increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, sometimes described as fertilizer for brain cells because it supports learning, memory, and healthy neural connections. Regular movement also reinforces the normal daily rhythm of cortisol, helping levels rise appropriately in the morning and decline toward evening, supporting healthier sleep. Current public health guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity each week, because these adaptations build through repetition, not isolated effort. Every session teaches your body to recover a little more efficiently than before. But this is exactly where many people accidentally interrupt the process. This is exactly where many well-intentioned people begin working against their own biology without realizing it. They save exercise for the weekend, push themselves through one exhausting session, and hope it will erase an entire week's worth of accumulated stress. Or, life becomes especially demanding, and movement is the very first habit they abandon because they feel they have no energy left to spare. Another common expectation is that every workout should produce an immediate emotional lift. If it doesn't, it feels as though the exercise somehow failed. Some people complete a morning walk, then spend the remaining 10 hours almost entirely seated, believing the benefits continue unchanged regardless of what happens afterward. None of these choices makes you careless or uninformed. They make you human. For years, much of the health conversation has focused on intensity, calories, or willpower, instead of explaining how adaptation actually works. Your nervous system does not learn resilience from isolated bursts of effort. It learns through repeated cycles of challenge, followed by recovery. Think back to the biological chain we just explored. Every time you move at a moderate intensity, your muscles use circulating glucose. Your heart practices recovering. Your parasympathetic nervous system becomes more efficient, and beneficial signaling molecules begin communicating throughout your body. Those changes become stronger through repetition, not perfection. Missing one day is rarely the problem. Replacing regular movement with long periods of inactivity is what interrupts the conversation your body is trying to have with itself. The version most people have heard is that exercise is something you do after stress becomes overwhelming. What your body actually needs is frequent, sustainable movement that repeatedly teaches its stress response systems how to return to balance. But perhaps the biggest misunderstanding isn't about exercise at all. It's about stress itself. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding is not about exercise at all. It is about stress itself. Many of us have been taught to think of stress as something entirely harmful, something that should be avoided whenever possible. That belief is understandable, but it leaves out an important part of the story. Stress originally evolved as a survival system. For thousands of generations, it helped human beings respond quickly to immediate danger. A sudden burst of stress sharpened attention, increased available energy, and prepared the body for action. Once the threat passed, the nervous system settled, hormones returned toward their normal rhythm, and recovery began. The problem was never stress itself. The problem was staying in that activated state for far longer than the body was designed to tolerate. Modern life has changed the equation. Financial pressure, caregiving responsibilities, health concerns, poor sleep, and constant digital stimulation can keep the stress response system switched on for hours or even days. Research discussed by organizations including the American College of Sports Medicine, the American Heart Association, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, along with reviews published in journals such as Nature Reviews Neuroscience and The Lancet, consistently points toward the importance of regular physical activity in supporting healthy stress regulation across multiple body systems. That is the crucial distinction. Exercise does not erase stress from your life. Instead, it helps restore flexibility to the system that responds to stress, allowing your brain and body to shift more effectively between activation and recovery. Healthy physiology depends on both. Once you understand that, stress stops looking like an enemy that must always be eliminated. It becomes a normal biological signal that needs a healthy resolution. And that raises a practical question. If your body already knows how to recover, how can you support that process in everyday life? So what does supporting this biology actually look like tomorrow morning? Now we arrive at the practical question you have been waiting for since the beginning of this conversation. If exercise helps your body reorganize its response to stress, instead of simply distracting you from it, what should you actually do? The encouraging news is that you do not need an extreme program, expensive equipment, or exhausting workouts. Your body responds remarkably well to consistency, especially as you get older. Start with a walk lasting between 20 and 30 minutes on most days of the week. Aim for a pace where you can still carry on a conversation, even if speaking in full sentences requires a slightly deeper breath. This level of effort is often called moderate intensity, and it provides enough challenge to activate the biological pathways we discussed without overwhelming your recovery systems. Remember, your goal is not to prove your fitness. Your goal is to teach your nervous system how to move smoothly from activation back into recovery. During that walk, include about 5 minutes at a slightly faster pace. You do not need to sprint or become breathless. Simply increase your speed enough that your heart works a little harder before returning to your comfortable pace. This gentle variation encourages your cardiovascular system to become more adaptable, while giving your muscles another opportunity to use circulating glucose and improve how efficiently they respond to stress hormones. 2 or 3 times each week, add simple resistance exercises. Standing up from a sturdy chair several times, wall push-ups, light resistance bands, or carrying grocery bags safely can all stimulate your muscles. Remember that skeletal muscle is much more than tissue that produces movement. It is an active communication network that releases myokines, helping coordinate healthy conversations between your muscles, immune system, liver, blood vessels, and brain. When your exercise session is finished, resist the urge to rush immediately into another source of mental stimulation. Spend 3 to 5 minutes breathing slowly and comfortably. Allow your exhale to become slightly longer than your inhale, if that feels natural. This gentle practice supports the gradual return of parasympathetic activity, reinforcing the recovery phase your body has been preparing for throughout the workout. There is another simple habit that many people overlook. Avoid reaching for stressful news, emails, or social media the moment you finish exercising. Give your brain a brief opportunity to remain in that calmer physiological state. Even 10 quiet minutes can help extend the transition from heightened alertness toward recovery, instead of immediately reactivating the same stress circuits you have just been calming. Hydration also matters more than many people realize. Water supports normal circulation, temperature regulation, and countless chemical reactions involved in recovery. You do not need elaborate sports drinks after a moderate walk, unless your healthcare professional has advised otherwise. For most people, drinking enough water throughout the day is a practical and effective habit. Finally, protect your sleep whenever possible. Regular physical activity and healthy sleep strengthen one another. Better movement often supports deeper sleep, while restorative sleep improves your body's ability to recover from both physical activity and emotional stress. This creates a positive cycle that becomes more valuable with every passing week. One important note deserves careful attention. If you have uncontrolled hypertension, significant heart disease, heart failure, severe arthritis, kidney disease, a recent surgery, or another unstable medical condition, this conversation should continue with your healthcare professional before you begin or substantially change an exercise program. That is not meant to discourage you. It is because your medical history deserves personalized guidance that respects both your goals and your safety. The right plan is the one that works with your body, not against it. None of these steps is complicated on its own. Their power comes from repetition. Every walk, every strength session, every few minutes of calm breathing gives your body another opportunity to practice the recovery process it was designed to perform. Small actions, repeated consistently, become powerful biological lessons. Now think back to where we began. Think back to that quiet morning walk where we began. You reached your front door breathing a little more deeply, your shoulders feeling less tense, and your thoughts no longer racing quite as fast. At the time, it may have seemed as though the walk simply helped you feel better. Now you know something much more meaningful happened beneath the surface. The bills did not disappear. Your appointments were still waiting. Life did not suddenly become easier. What changed was the way your body processed those challenges. Your brain, muscles, heart, hormones, and nervous system worked together to guide you from prolonged alertness toward recovery. That ordinary walk is no longer just exercise. It is another lesson you are teaching your body. Repeated day after day, week after week, even 365 times a year, those small choices become biological training for resilience rather than reactions to stress. And if understanding your body this way helps you make better daily decisions, if this kind of thoughtful, evidence-based explanation is useful to you, you're always welcome here. Every conversation on this channel is built around understanding how the aging body really works, with respect for both science and your intelligence. Until next time, take good care of yourself.